Hello, 3D printing. It's really popular in the RC community, and even products coming out like commercially, you'll often find 3D printed bits of them, especially TPU because it's flexible. We've got a GoPro mount here. This is on the recent 7-inch iFlight Chimera 7. We've got TPU here and guards under here. And I've done quite a lot of 3D printing with this behemoth behind me, which I'll show in more detail in a minute. But just for myself, I've printed mounts for putting things on quads and planes. If you look behind where I'm looking now, all my video game controllers are on mounts. My HDMI switch things are on mounts that I designed and printed. Over there I've got quads on the wall printed with mounts. Really handy and really useful to the RC community. So Creality, who you might know through the excellent Ender series of printers, which I know a lot of people have and they're very popular, asked me if I'd like to take a look at one of their printers. I said absolutely, because this guy is less than hassle-free. Let me take you through why, then I'll show you what we're looking at today.
This is my 3D printer. You can tell it because it says Wayne's printer. And this thing is about 8.5 years old now, and when I built it from pieces. So I got the metal bits from somebody else supplied me with some 3D printed bits. Got the bed somewhere else, got the threaded rods and other bits somewhere else. Motors somewhere else, and the electronics came from somewhere else. I've got a separate power supply there, which you can see a fan blowing air on, and then these end stops are a little bit hicky, and I've added things like this cooling fan. This is an auto level thing, which is why I've got this tin foil so it can detect it. It kind of works, but man, it took a long time to get going. We had to recompile the code for this thing many times. Every time there's a slight problem, we have to recompile the code. This has gone out many times. This bearing keeps falling down, and you can see here in my Captain Tape hotbed how the head has crashed into it and scored in many times, many problems. I've had to take this apart a lot, and when I've explained this to people, they're like, maybe I don't want to get into 3D printing, but let's see what the modern thing can do. Always have tape. Anyway, that is the 8 years ago version. Let's see what the up-to-date version looks like.
And this unassuming box is what I've got from Creality. It's the Sermoon V1 Pro, and the whole point about this, unlike my old behemoth, is it's supposed to be hassle-free. 3D printing, even the sort of latest stuff, has always come with an amount of setup. The idea of this Sermoon, if I'm saying that right, is you're supposed to be able to take out the box, plug it in, and get printing. You can control it from your phone. It's got a whole bunch of safety features. Ease of use is what it's supposed to be. So you no need to have the technical expertise to rip a printer apart, recompile the code. It's just supposed to go. So let's get in there, have a look at it, and see if it will do just that.
Okay, bit of phone filming here, so excuse the quality and the mess around the room. We've got a lot going on. But if we open this box up, let's see what we got inside. Okay, quick start guide, some general instructions there. We've got a small roll of filament to get going. Power plug, this is a UK plug. I'm in the UK, but I know they do this in like so many territories. You should be able to get the power plug for where you are. This is a box of tools, I guess, for changing things and opening it up if you need to. And under this great big section here, which is not easy to do with one hand, we get this guy, all enclosed, really nicely packaged actually. I can't do this one-handed. Let me get it out and we'll have a film of it. And here it is out of its box, looking a little bit smaller. And the next thing I'm going to do is basically take all the packaging off. I've just looked at the quick start guide, and it's a very quick start guide. It's one page basically about removing these cable ties to keep those safe. And it basically goes straight into like, let's get loading some stuff. But what I'll do, I'll get it all unwrapped, find a suitable place to put it, and then we can go through the specs in a bit more detail.
Welcome to the world of really awkward filming angles, because this is up quite high. The camera's on my desk. I'm sort of stooped at the right angle, but we got it out of the box. We took all the packaging out. I'm just about to turn it on for the first time, so I thought I'd film here. Any close-ups I need to do, I can always do via my phone or something. So let's find out what happens when we go ahead and hit the switch, which I think is behind here. Well, the couple of things I did, aside from taking the packaging out, clipping away, I checked the power down the back was set to 230 volts, which is UK. If you're in the US, there's a 110 volt setting. And plugged it in basically, so I'm just going to turn it on now.
Well, it already went through a little homing session and asked me to put filament in, which I thought, oh, I better film this. But now it's skipped over to this bit. So you can see this is a sort of touchscreen screen, so we can do stuff and bits with it. It's not on the network yet. To do that, we have to go and reset stuff, which seems a little bit awkward, but let's see what we need to do to load some filament in for starters. Print mode. Speed retreat. Insert filament as illustrated and click OK.
Okay, here's the filament. It's 1.75mm. Feels tiny compared to the 3mm I normally use. I've cut it at a slight angle there with these included snips, which were in the pack. So I'm just going to follow it through and see if it just loads easily. Open up this. On there, so I guess we're looking to see that it comes through. When filaments come out of the nozzle, click OK.
So it looks like what it's doing is basically heating it to 240. It's showing the current temperature at the moment, and it wants us to hit OK as soon as we see some filament coming out, which at the moment we don't see.
Now the idea of this one is it's very quiet. It's got these covers that keep the decibels down. I think they're talking about 45 decibels, which is pretty quiet. Still got nothing coming out yet.
Well, our filament is coming out. We've clicked on OK, and well, we need to try and print something now. I figured, since we don't have the included SD card, perhaps the easiest thing I can do is try and cloud print something. But for that, I need to get it on the network, which takes some extra hassles.
So I mentioned about a missing SD card, and I noticed this about it saying use the videos on the SD card for help. And when I downloaded the manual, I checked for the list of items, and I noticed I was missing the card reader and the SD card, the grease and the glue stick, and also the leveling card, although I later found out that the leveling card was this sort of piece of paper which talks about leveling. Although the idea of this is you can print out the box if over time you find out that the leveling is out, and by that it means that your nozzle is not quite at the right height to start printing. You can use the leveling card and some little tools in the touchscreen to get it right, and the idea is that the nozzle should just be putting some pressure on the card so you can move it but you can feel some tension on it. Anyway, I asked Creality about should I have these bits, because it's a little bit confusing because it says components for reference. Should I have it? And she said, yeah, they probably got removed by customs, which, you know, I don't really buy, because it would be weird for customs to remove these three things. And usually in the UK, if there's any customs activity, they slap a great big label on it saying opened by customs, which didn't happen. So I think these are just missing. Obviously, this is a review item, so I didn't pay for it. Else, you know, if I had, I would be kicking up a stink and saying, hey, where's my bits? And, you know, you should certainly do that if you didn't get all your bits. But from my point of view, it's a simple case of, you know, how do we fix this? I can get glue from anywhere. We don't need grease straight away because it came lubricated. And as far as the SD card goes, I asked her if she would send me over the SD contents if there was anything useful on that. That didn't come to it for a few days, so in the meantime, I carried on with getting printing.
Okay, so the printer's now connected to the Wi-Fi. I've got this little thing on my phone, and bizarrely, I can have a live picture of inside what's going on in my phone. There is a little camera just inside there, which as it's going to print, this is going to come up on the top, so this is going to show what's printing as it goes.
So this is the phone app. It's called Creality Cloud. You can get it on Android or iOS, and it's your way of printing over Wi-Fi, whether it's your own models that you might want to slice on your desktop or download something from their own space. This is the way to get it via Wi-Fi. So what I was going to do is go ahead and choose one of the models they've got, and you see me scroll along the top here, and I can pick one of the models from testing. You can see that little icon there where you can upload your own 3D model to slice. So I'm going to choose this medium chess piece looking thing, And what I'm going to do first is hit that download icon, and then I'm going to go back and hit the middle icon, which is the inbuilt slicer. If you're familiar with products like Cura or Slicer on the desktop, this is quite similar. This, for those of you that don't, this is a way of transforming a model into what's called G-code, which tells the printer how to do it. And I'm just moving this around, and I can see it's upside down. I mean, that would probably print okay like that, but it strikes me that that big base, maybe I want it up the other way. You know, maybe I should try printing upside down like this, but for me it feels more comfortable to have it the other way. So I'm just going to rotate this round, which is one of the tools you've got there. Yep, that looks good. And when I'm happy with that, you can see down the bottom we've got the device there. I'm just auto laying out to make sure it's definitely sat on the bottom and stuff. We've got a device name, we've got a filament, we've got a profile speedy, which is a 0.2 mil. You can see it here, the sort of quality and stuff you've got there. And when I'm happy, I can go ahead and hit that slice button. Now you can see it's going ahead and slicing this, which it does pretty quickly, but it's going to depend on the complexity of what you've got there. I'm not sure if this is doing it on the cloud server and pushing it back, or doing it on your phone, but whatever, it's ready to go, and we hit that print icon and then choose my printer. And from this point it will download to the printer and start warming it up. And we're seeing something here called cloudprint.gcode. We've got the hot end warming up and the bed warming up. At this point I haven't done anything other than turn it on and load the filament, so it'd be really interesting to see how this comes out. Generally speaking, my first print, especially if my other printer, has been absolutely awful, but this said it could print out of the box. This is exactly what we're doing. Not touched it. Looks like we're homing. Bed's coming up. This is quite different than my last printer, where the hot end went down to the bed, and this one the bed comes up, which is new and interesting. It's going. I'm not exactly sure what it's printing. And the scale of this thing is absolutely huge, and I didn't really pay attention. It seems to be doing a little sort of bit at the side, and then it's doing quite a big area. We'll find out. Let's see what it prints. One thing I do notice is that the print quality that's coming out is laying itself down just perfectly, absolutely spot on. And I can watch it on the phone, which is even weirder. I don't think that's going to focus, but yeah, that is what the printer is doing when we look at it at the live view, which is weird. So aside from being able to watch this in a live view, if you do the cloud printing, it will create a time lapse for you. But I think going forward you have to like pay for cloud storage for this sort of thing. But I had one recording this and it looks like this.
It's just finished, and it's kind of lowering itself down. And yeah, that was a bit bigger than I thought, and it took 1 hour 57. But as far as I can see, detail on this looks really good. I can't see any sort of stringy bits from doing those that sort of bits over there, and it seems to have made the whole thing on some sort of little raft, which is quite interesting, maybe to make it stick better. But anyway, once this cools down, as you see, it's just turned itself off there, so it's just set itself for 0. I'll take it off the bed and I'll show you how the bed comes out, and we can have a look at the print quality. Okay, so now we've got more of an ambient temperature, we can take this guy out. This is set up so if you open this mid-print, it would actually cool it down. The idea is you don't burn people. So rather than try and pull this off, what we've got here is this magnetic pad. I'm doing this with one-handed because I'm using my other hand to hold my phone. But that looks pretty good. Let's take this off and have a proper look at it. And this is what we've just taken off the bed there. And rather than print like a surround, it's kind of printed this little raft to print the rest on, which gives great adhesion there. And this it printed at 0.2 mil per layer, and it's very smooth. It looks really nice. As you can see there's a little internal circular staircase, and the only slight issues this has is we've got some sort of string bits along here where it's, I don't know if it's supposed to try and bridge that, and we've got some slight stringiness just between some of the little turrets there, which often happens because you print a small bit and then move over to the next one. You can get little stringy bits there where it doesn't retract all the way in. But this, I mean, I can't believe this is a first print. This was weeks and weeks. Anything like this would have been from my initial print. Let's just see if this comes away easily. And yeah, I mean, I just need 2 hands to do it, but that just came straight away. And there you go. There's my ridiculously oversized looking chest piece. Let me just see if I can clean that up and get rid of the stringy pieces. I'm just not sure if that central portion is supposed to go somewhere, but we'll give it a quick go. And after a bit of snipping and some bits down there, pretty much got rid of most of it, and you can see down it where we got those stringy bits is where it was coming across here. You see that is quite a distance to bridge, and so some of the filament went down. Same on both sides, but you've got pretty good detail. Got a couple more stringy bits on the interior detail, but yeah, pretty much that is a really nice looking print, especially for one that I've not done anything with. It's literally just plug it in and go, and you get this. Amazing.
So the next thing I thought I'd do is try printing something from, you know, somewhere else. So I went on to Thingiverse and I found this Pi Zero case, and I thought this is a good thing to test, because on my old printer, one of the things I had was some sort of shrinkage. Whenever I did a print, I would often have to do it just a couple of % bigger, because often the dimensions didn't quite work out. And the Pi Zero, as you can see here, has very specific holes that have to line up. I thought, let's get this, let's print it, and I'll give it a go trying out the slicer. This is called Creality Print. They had an earlier version called Creality Slicer, which doesn't actually run on my version of Mac OS, but this is the new one, and this basically replaces it. And with this, you've got some of the same things you could see in the app version. So you can go in and you can, you know, look at models and find different things that you might want to get and import them directly. I've gone to Thingiverse and put it there. So what I'm going to do is import the STL files into the slicer. And this will look pretty familiar to, you know, most packages work like that. If you've got a scroll wheel, you can zoom in and out, right button down, and you can sort of zoom around. And you've got all the sort of same things as before. So you can grab these and you can move them, and grab that one, move that, grab that one, move that. And what I found in here is, I was talking about the fact it does a raft, and that is the default. So if I was to go ahead and say, yeah, let's slice this, it makes much more sense when you see it here. It creates this raft. You don't have to have it. You can have nothing. You can have the sort of a perimeter thing, but this seems to do really well for taking off of the bed, at least on that last thing, and for adhesion. And beforehand I used Slicer, which was very basic, and I kind of like this because what you can do is, if we bring our layers down and our steps down and speed up, we can actually like watch the toolpath of the printer and what exactly it's going to do, and, you know, just go along a couple more layers. You know, you might be quite familiar with just being able to step through the layers like that, but actually watching like the toolpaths and that's quite useful. So what I'm going to do here is export, write it to my SD card, plug it in the printer, and get on and see what happens when I print it.
So as mentioned before, this is the SD card slot. You just pop an SD card in and you can say print a file, and I've got the Pi Zero case there, and it will go ahead and we can press print. Just before that, you've also got different things. So print setup, we've got a case fan here which makes more noise but gets rid of some of the heat. We've also got lighting control. So previously the light would come on if you were watching it on the app and then go off again, but if you want it like on all the time, you've got the option there, which I think is quite nice. But anyway, we're going to do print file, Pi Zero case, print. We'll get ready to go.
And just 2 hours and 34 minutes later, we have a finished print. I do notice that these ones are a fair bit stringier than the last one we printed, which is a bit weird, but let's give them a clean up and see how things fit together.
Well, both those parts cleaned up quite nicely, so let's now see if the Raspberry Pi Zero fits in cleanly. Yeah, nicely. You can see it sits just perfectly on all those bits, which means the scale of what it prints is correct. Well, I'm taking into account that somebody's measured this correctly as it fits, and it prints correctly because that fits. Just check that the top clips on as well. Yeah, I mean, it goes on. This was built so it sort of clips in, which means the whole thing kind of forces upwards a little bit, but it's not bad for PLA. It's fine. I was thinking of using this for a quad, but I need to actually get access to the other side. This is for OpenHD, so I'll probably design my own one. But that's quite a good test of the fact it prints to the right scales. So cool, on to the next test.
Now, I carried on doing some prints, and I got a couple of bad ones. Here's one. It's supposed to be like a little micro SD card holder. And you can see here that we've got holes in here. I hope you can see. This is quite hard to focus. We've got this thread's not going to work. It's all over the place. And this bit's all hasn't filled in properly, and it's all rubbish. And I was thinking, what's the problem here? Because I got a great print on the first few. At the same time, I had the SD card content arrive from Creality, so I took a look at what's in that.
On the SD card was this video, and it was actually really good. It shows you the contents, it shows you the correct way of unpacking and taking all the cable ties off. It shows you how to load the filament in a much better way than I could show. And then it's got a whole thing about how to set up and go into Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So really worth having, that one. It also had this PDF about recommended printing parameters, and I noticed that for PLA it says turn the chassis fan on, and I didn't have that, and I thought, I wonder if this is the problem. But they also had some models on the card along with pre-sliced things, so the G-code. So I went ahead and I tried printing one of those with the case fan on.
So what I want to do with this test is check how it would be with a longer print. This one's been running for 8 hours, 12 minutes. You can hear the case fan going. But the quality on this looks really nice, actually. Really good. This is one of their included G-code bits that was on the SD card. It looks really, really nice.
So I don't know if this is going to pick up the quality here, but it's gorgeous. It's absolutely lovely. Just, it's flawless along there. You can barely see that this is 3D printed because it just doesn't have those regular lines you might see. So yeah, really happy with that one.
So I thought maybe the problem was not having that case fan on, but when I printed that chest piece originally it was fine. So I went back into the Cloud app and I looked at the slicer settings, and then I compared this to what was on my desktop app. And if you go onto the desktop app here, you've got these profiles which we use to print, and I'm using one called Speedy, which is a 0.2mm layer, and we can go ahead and edit that profile. And if you bring it up at first, it's got a bunch of, the most basic settings, but what you can do is also go into the advanced settings, and then you've really got a good breakdown of every single thing. And I noticed differences here. So what I did is I went and edited the Speedy profile, and I made the changes, and then I went back and I reprinted that little SD card holder thing which had that really bad print, and turning on the case fan as well.
Now I'm hoping you can see the difference between the before and after shot here with this the before, this the after. You can see the smoothness of the filament there. You can see how the thread would actually work, and if we look on top, you can see that this is solid, whereas this has got holes in, and the things here are better. Having read all the comments on Thingiverse, it's actually a pretty bad design. Loads of people complained they couldn't get SD cards in, so I didn't bother printing the top. But it's good to get the bad print of it and then make the changes and get the good print. So that was good.
What I thought I'd do with the next test is try and print something that has interlocking parts that need to slightly break apart. You've got this spinner here which is on their own model library, which I'm going to import, and the way this works is it has these interlocking parts, and then the idea is you can break away and be able to spin each layer individually. And I thought also on this one, instead of using the normal raft, I'd go back to my normal thing of printing a perimeter. And you can do this just by editing the profile and changing the adhesion type to a skirt, like so. Or you can create yourself a new profile for it. But let's try and print this.
And here is the finished spinner. Little bitty around some edges, but it came out and it spins. This is a one-piece print where you can move it along and stuff, so that's quite good. I mean, the middle bit doesn't spin freely, but the rest of it, very good.
So I'm pretty happy that our PLA printing's going pretty well. I've pretty much run through the reel we had there. I've got about this much left, which sounds like a good time to change over. And what I wanted to do is try some TPU printing. I've never printed TPU before, and my last printer wouldn't because it had the wrong type of extruder. The Sermoon, which is just up there, has this extruder called the Sprite Direct Double Gear Extruder, which means it can handle flexible filaments. So you'll be careful with them because depending how you feed the filament in, because it's flexible, it could just stretch or get all caught up and clangy and that sort of stuff, which would be an interesting thing to tell. I've gone ahead and ordered this from Amazon Basics it's called, TPU, 1 kilogram roll of blue TPU. Basically I had to, not using TPU before, I just looked at the reviews and they seemed okay. Now Creality itself doesn't really talk about TPU in terms of this printer. At least in the documentation it talks about printing techie and ABS and PLA, but they do support it, and it's probably a good time to talk about some of the videos they've got on their video channel on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of things about how to like change things over and repair things and do maintenance and set it up. And one of the things they talk about is how to set up the printer for TPU, how to do the slicer settings, how to print and temperatures and things too, like they suggest that you get it off while it's still hot. And I've got myself some little flexible blades to help me get under there and see if I can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and print something in TPU and give it a go and see what happens. I was going to start with doing something like a phone cover because I thought that would be easy, but it just so happens I was building up this for review and it's got this GoPro mount here, and it would take something like a naked GoPro, not a full one, and I thought, I know, I'll put the Runcam thumb on it because I need to test that some more. And this comes with this little TPU mount, but that is not GoPro size, it needs a bigger one. So I went on to Thingiverse and I found that someone's done one, and I thought, I know, I'll print it out in PLA just like this to make sure I can do it. Also quite handy because I printed this with supports which I had to take out, and that was really easy, and that fits in there right. So I thought what I'll do now, so I can get the camera in and out easy and make it absorb some of those vibrations, I will try printing the same thing in TPU and see what happens. The camera does actually squeeze into this. There's a little bit of flex because it's quite thin, but that's going to become brittle, and it's harder, so it's going to pass the vibrations up to the camera. So yeah, let's give TPU a go and see what happens with this. Okay, it's off and running. It's a little hard to see because it's kind of a slightly translucent blue we're printing, but the fact it's extruding and it's sticking. In fact, it seems much stickier. As I said, it's my first instance of trying TPU, and I noticed it looks like, you could easily stick it onto the nozzle if you're not careful, but it seems to be coming out. Okay, so we're 50-something% through, still printing at 215 and 70 on the bed, and it's looking like that at the moment. I was a bit confused about supports on TPU. I couldn't find a sort of definitive guide about, if you could go further or longer, so I just printed the same as I did PLA, and we'll just expect to cut them away essentially. Okay, we're like, I was going to say we're 99% done, but it's just finished. It's coming on down, so I want to get that build plate out quickly. I do notice TPU, because it's so flexible, it feels like it's really pulling, but seems fine. Anyway, I'm going to take this build plate out whilst it's hot. Still, it's 69 degrees, so be careful of burning. Just to make sure I can get it off without it sticking. Hopefully this works. Okay, mine's the fingers. Okay, let's see if we can just give it a little pull. Ah, no problem, easy. Okay, let's get rid of these supports now. This might be a little bit trickier. Well, I thought this would be quite hard, excuse the mess of the desk, but what I'm doing, because it's flexible, I can just push my thumb straight through and all the support material just comes out, and there we go, flexy. Awesome. It's so good. Now more importantly, now we've printed it, does it fit this? This is my first time with TPU and it's such a novelty factor, but yeah, that just squeezes in beautifully there, and that's nice and tight, it's not coming out. And this whole thing just goes in there perfectly. So I just need to put a bolt in there to hold the whole thing together, and I've got a nice vibration dampening mount there. Fantastic. And then I thought it's no good showing one of these things to people that might have found this video because they were interested in the printer generally and not in RC. So I went ahead and printed a phone case. TPU is my new novelty factor. It's just everything's a stress ball. I managed to print the iPhone X cover instead of the XR cover, but interesting thing about it is I didn't think about what I was printing, I just printed it, so I didn't print any supports. And this is able to raft along huge areas. These were all flawless. These had a little bit of stringy bits, and I just pulled them off. Basically the first layer is basically sagged down a bit, but that is amazing stuff. So then I did go ahead and I printed the correct case for my iPhone XR, and it just literally slips in here like that, nice and tight. Phone case, brilliant. So I could go on forever and print more and more stuff, but I suppose we should conclude this video and talk about what I liked and what I didn't like about the printer and the whole experience. Well, there's an awful lot to like. First off, I literally took it out of the box, I plugged it in, I put the filament in, and then I hit print on the phone and a perfect print came out. I think that's so impressive. It didn't even need bed leveling. That was done in the factory. Eventually the bed leveling may go out, and there's a very simple utility on the touchscreen where you can basically touch 5 points and check it and adjust it up and down using the touchscreen, and it will go again. But the fact is, the fact I could just print out of the box, even though it's been sort of shipped around and, you know, it rustled around in the box, was absolutely amazing. And it printed very, very well out of the box as well. It's a pretty quiet printer. I say pretty quiet because it kind of depends what you're printing. Things like ABS, which really benefit from an enclosed space, because if ABS gets like a whiff of a breeze coming in, it tends to peel up and bend off the plate and stuff like that. For PLA it's a little bit different. PLA we needed the case fan, which is a little bit more noisy, and if the ambient temperature in your environment gets a bit hotter, i.e. above 30 degrees, it recommends taking the top cover off. Now I just happen to be in some of the hottest days this year. It's been like 28 degrees outside, which is unheard of around here, and with all my sort of computer equipment here, it's pretty warm, so I've had the top off. So it hasn't been as quiet as it could be, but it's pretty quiet. It doesn't have the normal noise. If you've been around a 3D printer, there's a sort of noise the stepper motors make. It's kind of, it's like a little whiny sound, which is more noticeable. That's just like having another fan on in the background. Another thing I don't get from this one, which I did on my previous printer, is the smell. If you've ever been around PLA printing, there's a very distinctive, although not unpleasant smell. My wife really used to notice it when she came in. She's like, what is that smell? It's like, oh, it's just PLA. I find it quite pleasant. But I'm not getting any of that from this. It could be because it's smaller filament. My last printer uses 3mm, but the fact is all the air's being extracted away, and it's seemingly aromaless, which is really nice. If you've got little people around, there's some good safety features. I mean, the fact it's fully enclosed, you can't just stuff your hand in, is pretty good. But out the box, if you open up the door when it's printing, it will stop printing, it will suspend what it's doing, so there's less risk of being able to get hands in there. And if you close the door back again, it just resumes. And that's another feature which I haven't tested because I haven't had any power cuts here, but if you lose power, if something goes off in the middle of the print, it's intelligent enough to know where it was and it will resume the printing, which I think is pretty cool. I really like the way of loading and unloading filament. In my last printer, I really avoided unloading filament as much as I could, because it was one of those bits where there'd be a 50-50 chance of getting some filament stuck, and then I'd have a blockage and I'd have to take the whole thing apart and clear out the print head and the extruder and things like that. This one is so good, that little extruder in there. You press a button and you pop it in, and then you go on the touch screen, you say I want to unload, it heats the filament back up, and it says okay, pull it in one move. You press the button in, pull it out, it's completely clear. And when I replaced the filament from PLA to TPU, I used to get like, you know, a good few meters of filament coming through, and then the colour would mix and then you get it. I had like about 6 inches worth of the previous filament, and it was straight into the new stuff, so it's not leaving anything in there, which is really nice. That light it's got in there is really cool. Sometimes it's very hard to see what's going on if, you know, my main light's over there, it's not that light there, it's fully enclosed. And so having that light gives you a real good view about what's going on. And when you're looking at it through the app, which is obviously another great thing, that light switches on automatically so you can see better. It's also great, it's got a camera. Although that's coming to that, it's one of the things I dislike about it as well. But it's very easy to connect to Wi-Fi, use the app, look through the camera, see what's happening, see if there's any problems. You can control it fully, you could stop the print, you could change it, you could do all your slicing over the cloud and completely print it from go. Basically, if you just left your printer on, you could be, you know, anywhere in the world and just say, I need to print something, go on your phone, slice it, do it there and then. And I was fairly impressed with the amount of videos and in-depth instructions about what happens if you need to do maintenance or something breaks and needs replacing and stuff like that. Really good, nice YouTube channel, and showed you everything in like a lot of detail. And just the fact you could print TPU out the box, that's almost unheard of. I know a lot of friends of mine been TPU printing for like GoPro mounts and stuff, and they had to do a lot of mods on their machines to get it working. This, I loaded in the filament and it was just great, it just went. I've used pretty much all that PLA, that's how much I've got left. Fortunately, Creality sent me another reel, which is handy, so I'll be able to do some more. But yeah, I've been printing and printing, and I've been nothing but impressed by it. The slicer program is really good. They've actually just sort of moved. There was one called Creality Slicer, which didn't even work on my version of Mac, but it's been replaced by something called Creality Print. And a fantastic product. It allowed me to easily rotate my model on any axis to make sure I was printing the way I wanted to. When I added supports, you could do it automatically, you could do it manually, and even when you did it automatically, I did somewhere I clicked on some supports and thought, let's take some away, because that would be easier to remove, and I think it can bridge across that gap. That was really easy to use. I also liked it when you went into the preview. It gave you sort of the speed to print, and you could actually have a look at the toolpath. You could see the way the printer would move and exactly how it was going to do sort of infill and stuff like that, and supports and bits like that, and they're all coloured differently. Really good program. I say the only thing about it is perhaps because it's new, they haven't got all the presets in there they need to. Like, for example, the presets for slicing in the cloud were much better than the desktop version. As soon as I put those cloud presets into my desktop, I got a much better print out of it. And the fact I had to create my own TPU profile from their video, it's like, hopefully they'll update this and they'll put some extra profiles in. It would be nice, instead of just having like a 0.1 mil and a 0.15 mil and a 0.2 mil profile, they do one for ABS in the same way, and then they do one for TPU, and they do one for PETG, and then you don't have to think about like, what changes do I make for the material. It will just be there in front of you, you can just click it. I think that would be a really good improvement. The one thing I don't like about it, which is really one of the features as well, is if I'm printing on my desktop, I would really like the ability to control things via Wi-Fi via the desktop. Look at the camera via a computer downstairs or something, or on my phone in the local network. For example, if I want to record a time lapse, you can only do that if you print from the app. But if I'm here and the print is there, it seems a bit weird that I have to send my model to the cloud in order to look at it on my phone, and then tell the phone, some server over there, to talk back to my printer so it will record a time lapse, when it's right there and I'm right here. And so it's kind of depending how you want to use it. You know, if I'm going to be on my desktop most of the time, I'm not going to just be like out and about and thinking, I need to print something from my phone. I'll get on with that. But I guess for many people, the ease of operation, the fact you don't need a desktop computer and you can just download a model from anywhere and print it, is a great selling point. For me, working in my situation, I would like some desktop enhancement so that I could do stuff from here. The other thing, just to check, and this has not been a problem for me, but the build area is slightly smaller than you might expect on other printers. So 175 mil, normally you get about 200 mil by 200 mil. So your print volume is smaller. That said, I have never printed anything, and I'm looking around thinking from everything I've printed, because my previous print area was bigger, I've never printed anything that big before. But check that out. If there's anything you want to print that's really, really big, then you're going to have to rethink this, either get a big print bed or think about how things can break into multiple pieces. If you've ever looked at the plans for printing 3D planes, for example, their wings are like split into like 6 pieces that you have to then glue back together, because obviously you can't print something like a meter big. You have to do something. Not an issue for me, but be careful. If there's something very specific you want to print, then check out the print bed size. But aside from those small quibbles, mostly about the desktop environment, I really can't fault it. But there you go. I am super happy, and I will be printing up a storm on all sorts of bits. I've already got some ideas about things. I was quite inspired by this. It has these little TPU bits here to help grip the battery, and I thought that is a brilliant way of using stuff, because I've got like things in enclosures that I want to put on like tripods, but I don't want to fix them in, and I'm thinking TPU to sort of grip things is another great use of I just love TPU. Anyway, this has been the review of the Creality Sermoon V1 Pro, which I am loving. I hope it's been helpful to you, and of course you can find links to Creality's website and where you can look and find it in more detail. And I hope that's been useful. I will catch you next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.